Today we have Dr. Heather Schwartz, and Dr. Heather Schwartz is the Director of Veterinary Services at Nashville Zoo. She holds a BS in Animal Sciences from Middle Tennessee State University and a DVM from the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. Her experience includes both small animal and exotic practice. Dr. Schwartz is the Clouded Leopard Veterinary Advisor for the Association of Zoos and Aquariums. She serves on the board of Tennessee STEM Innovation Network, Tennessee One Health, CE Cord Animal Health Diagnostic Laboratory, and our K-12 and One Health and K-12 group of Tennessee. When not working, Dr. Schwartz loves spending time outdoors with friends and family, including her daughter, Madeline, sorry. But I will pass it over to Heather.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. We just got off our State One Health meeting, so it's just been a full One Health day here. So I'm excited to share with you a lot of what is going on at Nashville Zoo. It is a crazy, rapidly growing zoo to work at, which I love. We just opened our brand new Komodo exhibit yesterday for the members, and today it's open to the public. So excited, and if you're near Nashville, highly recommend you stop by because it looks amazing. Right now I'm gonna share the screen and talk to you about our conservation efforts at the Nashville Zoo. So we're gonna let me know if this all works and it's going okay. It's all good? Mm-hmm. Great. Okay. So there's my email. If you have any questions or need anything from me, I'm happy to answer anytime. So I thought I would share a little bit about Nashville Zoo in general. We are a baby zoo. A lot of our other zoos in the state and around the country, are decades old or, even 100+ years old now at this point. But Nashville Zoo did not open at this property until 1997. So we're really just over 25 years old. And we have done a lot in a little bit of time by building numerous exhibits and growing our attendance. You can see here that that's just till 2020, but since then we hit 1.3 million this past year, and we're expected to surpass that again this year. So we are the highest attended attraction in all of Tennessee, except for Dollywood, which is pretty cool. We have a rapidly growing membership, and now we have exceeded that 38,000 these past 2 years, and we even exceed Memphis Zoo and Knoxville Zoo. But a real cool, interesting fact about us is that we do not get any city funding from the state. All the zoos get one set annual, and they have to go for every year. But beyond that, there's no operating funds given by the municipality here in Nashville. A lot of the zoos around the country get annual operating dollars from tax revenue, and that is not something that Nashville Zoo gets. We have been completely tax-free, debt-free since 2011, which has been amazing considering how young we are. And so everything that you see us do here has all been through ticket sales and private donors. Again, we don't get any operating support from the city, and you can see this here. Even Memphis and Knoxville, Chattanooga, they get some sort of revenue from tax dollars in the state, but we do not. So super proud to know that we've done all this just through the kindness of our members, our supporters, donors, those kind of things. And so again, just showing that support. And we do have a perfect score on Charity Navigator. And the reason I share all this is just going to show you how much we're doing with our conservation efforts, knowing that we're having to find all these funds outside through grants or through donations or funding just through the money that we generate through ticket sales. So it's the reason I was pointing this out. Also, an interesting fact about our zoo is that we have just close to 100 acres that are not developed. We're a total of 188 acres in all. And if you look at some of these zoos here that you can see on the slide, like Cincinnati, 75-acre zoo. A lot of these zoos are pretty small in comparison. just for land mass. So we're pretty fortunate to have a lot of undeveloped areas. Our next plan is a 40-acre expansion to include African exhibits moving forward. Oh, Ed Ramsey's here. That's scary. So, all right. So at Nashville Zoo, we've kind of targeted our conservation efforts through the slogan of WildWorks, just to try to get people more aware of all the conservation efforts that are going on in Nashville. We find that our guests really don't know what is happening and that how much we're actually giving back to conservation here at the zoo. And we're really trying to change this. So we developed this brand for this reason. We're trying to put more signage up as people enter the zoo to make them aware of the programs that we're supporting. We're trying to make more efforts on social media, postings, our website, just to really key in to make people understand that we are a conservation organization. We're not just here for entertainment. Our goal is to educate the public and help them understand about the plight of the world and what's going on around them and bring those to their attention. But we find it a challenge, and I'm sure other zoos do as well, for them to understand, what all of those organizations are doing. So hopefully for some of you, these will be some newer things that you've haven't heard about, but also hopefully there's some that you have heard about, that we have reached enough of an audience that you've heard about some of our programs here at Nashville and what we're doing to help with local and global conservation. And so this was back 2020, but that's how much money we had sent over a couple of years just around the globe and some of the areas of the world that we've sent money to. Last year, we sent over $700,000 alone in conservation funds to local and global projects. So I wanted to start with all the stuff we're doing locally here in Nashville and around Middle Tennessee, because, I think it's great that we are able to actually conserve species right in our backyard. And we try to share with our guests and have them be a part of Nashville and encourage them to do the same by helping, clean up streams, being aware of what's in their backyard and helping them care. So I love our local conservation efforts. So again, these are our mission is education and conservation through education. We were able to reach over 853,000 individuals last year, which is great. And our goals are to have consumers and citizens recognize that their choices matter, and what they're doing on a daily basis makes a difference to impact nature. That we are providing extraordinary animal care, that we're a destination for fun, that we have this WildWorks initiative to save species and protect habitat. And we must support the communities in which these animals live to be able to support their habitat. We can't do it by just going in and making changes. Those communities have to have buy-in to be able to protect those species. So these are all our missions of trying to educate our public and make a difference. So the first one that you, or the first couple that you may have heard of or know about are our Head Start program. So hellbenders and streamside salamanders. This has been one of our biggest success stories and one I'm proud to be a part of. I've been a part of that for 14 years that I've been here. Our ectotherm curator, Del McGinnity, has taken a huge interest in these slimy salamanders that I've grown to love, and trying to figure out ways to protect them, both in captivity and in the wild. And so it first started with us working with these hellbenders here, collecting some from the streams in partnership with Tennessee Wildlife Resources agencies, and bringing them into a conservation, literally it's a trailer that we have on site, and breeding them. So I started ultrasounding with Dale, both hellbenders in the wild and in our captive collection, and following their follicle development, their timing, their seasonality. We started working with some reproductive physiologists up in Michigan and figuring out hormone things that we could do to help cycle and be able to collect semen from the males. And so we were able to establish that and actually produce these animals in captivity by large numbers. So we've produced hundreds and hundreds of hellbender offspring over the years. They only have one season in which they breed, and that's in September. So September is usually a busy month for us collecting eggs and semen and trying to raise these guys. And then we head start them in that conservation trailer. They go from small tanks and they grow up over the years. And then when they're about 3 or 4 years old, we start releasing them. And we've just been doing this project for the last few years. And this year we released 24 animals on May 13th and 14th of this year. We actually put transmitters in their coelomic cavity or their abdomen and test them, make sure that they're negative for some of the diseases like chytrid and those kind of things. And then work with TWRA to identify a site in which they can be released. TWRA also brings in water from that site so we can slowly acclimate these animals for release. And then we go out and we work with MTSU, some local universities and things, and their students track them with the radio transmitters to follow them after release. And we're excited to say that this year we released 24 and we've only lost 1. This is our lowest mortality event to date. And through partnership with UT, we were able to find that if we do terbinafine implants, that they tend to have less susceptibility to diseases like the chytrid fungus and being introduced to that once they get into the wild. And so it gives them a little bit of protection and seems to help them thrive. And so we do think that's a huge benefit. Next year, we're probably going to be doing terbinafine in all of our hellbenders for release. And so thinking that's a huge benefit for us and for them with reducing mortality. So it's just been a huge success with this program, and we're super proud of that. This year, the location and release was at Big Swan Creek, and again, they're doing really, really well. Another one for us it was, trying to strengthen populations. We worked the alligator snapping turtles. So a lot of people know of the common snapping turtles. They're usually more out and prevalent. They kind of get a bad rap. But there's also a second species here, the alligator snapping turtles. They're a little more unique. They can stay underwater for long periods of time. They have few clutches a year. They have these cool ridges on their back, but they're actually in need of management. TWRA has identified them as an animal in need or in crisis and needing protection. So we worked with them and did a Head Start program where we collected hatchlings and brought them in and kept them for a number of years through part of a grant, raised them up, did a lot of measurements and testing and stuff to make sure they were fine, individual ID. And then they actually helped us find a place to locate and reintroduce them, and they are doing well and thriving. So that was a great project to be a part of. And currently we don't have any alligator snapping turtles here, but I think this is something we'll continue to do moving forward in the future. This is another big one that we just started in the last few years. Williamson County, which is Franklin area here in Nashville, is booming. Housing development is crazy. It's one of the fastest growing land development areas, I think, in the country at this point. And what they're finding is a lot of the developments are actually disturbing this particular hellbenders, the Ambystoma barbari, is disturbing their habitat. And there's just so few of these guys, and they have such a unique need. You'll just find their eggs deposited under these little rocks and these little tiny shallow water areas. I wouldn't even know to look for, but because of TWRA and Nashville's team, they've been looking at these areas and finding that they're destroying a lot of these habitats and sites. So they're working with developers and actually collecting them as they go in for these sites, so they can at least have them here. We can hatch them, have populations that we know where they came from, and then reintroduce them into areas that are better suited for them for future. And so we can keep them around. So it's a really cool project to be a part of. They've been a little bit of a challenge to hold in our captive setting and needing some very unique requirements, but we're figuring those out, figuring out their microbiome, physiology, and their requirements, and learned a whole lot about these little guys. But we have had hatchings and we have had releases. So pretty proud of that program as well. You guys have probably just seen the news in the last 48 hours about the water temperatures off of Key West and how bad the corals are there. I mean, they've bleached out in the last 2 weeks. And so Florida Fish and Wildlife is frantically trying to figure out how to save those. But before all that even happened, we were already trying to take part in knowing that this was coming, right, with these increased water and temps and climate change, that we're going to need to be able to help these species and hopefully get them through it and be able to protect them for future. So Florida Fish and Wildlife sought out many zoos around the country to participate with an assurance colony program. So they have sent corals to many zoos, and Nashville Zoo is now a proud home of 20 of those species off the Atlantic Ocean or out of the Atlantic Ocean to house and to keep here for future generations. We're trying to better understand them. So I've been doing a lot of learning about coral disease and treatments. A lot of interesting facts. I never thought I'd be treating coral here at Nashville Zoo, but it's been a great project to be a part of. And it actually is home right here in our hospital, which is really cool. So right in the lobby of our veterinary center, these corals live. So I get to see them every single day. But it's a cool thing to be a part of. And I think it's going to be critical to ensure these species for the future with the way climate changes is going. Cool bird near and dear to my heart and right here in our backyards of Tennessee are the loggerhead shrikes. Really cool birds. They spike their prey. Like if you've ever gone to a field or seen barbed wire fences, and maybe you'll see like an insect that's been speared right on piece of barbed wire, that's these little guys. They spike their prey and then come back and get them at a later time, which is really, really cool. So they look cute, but they're quite fierce. But these little guys are in need of protection, you know, just with everything else, with habitat loss and developments and those kind of things. These guys are losing their habitat and their grasslands. So we're trying to better understand them, understand their migratory patterns. So they'll travel all the way from south all the way up into Ontario. So we're working with multiple zoos and ourselves. So it's SCBI, Ontario, and us that are working with these guys to try to understand those travel patterns, have secure populations here. So right now, I think we have 3 breeding pairs. And we're trying to monitor these guys and watch their movements. Which is really cool. So we've banded over 20 birds right here in our area, just surrounding Nashville. And we've actually hatched out a couple of birds and released them and seen them travel and actually do their migratory pattern. We even have a MODIS tower located right here on the veterinary hospital that I was seeing if that slide was on there, but that tracks the migratory movement of birds, and the loggerhead shrike program is part of that. So putting on transmitters that we can follow and see their migratory pattern across the US, which is really cool. So another one right here in our own stream at the zoo is the Nashville crayfish. If anyone saw the stamps that were just released by United States Postal Office from Joel Sartor, our crayfish made the stamp, which is really cool. The Nashville crayfish actually lives right here in Mills Creek. Mills Creek is just a small stream that runs through parts of Davidson County. And these fish, or these crayfish, actually are only native to the stream, which is crazy to me, but really cool. And so through that, we've been able to protect them, get grants for monitoring these tributaries, the stream, doing cleanup. It guides a lot of our construction on zoo grounds and making sure that we're doing things that are safe for the habitats and the streams around us, and we're not having runoff. We do stream monitoring as a big part of our aquatics team, is going out after big rain events, storms, those kind of things, and looking at water quality. How is that affecting and how is construction affecting Mill Creek, and making sure they're staying clean. This is another area where we get members and volunteers to come in and do cleanups along the stream, including our staff. So it's a really cool conservation effort that's literally on zoo grounds. So this just tells you about how long this has been going on. We've been doing this over 10 years, and about the watershed and the impact. And you can see in 2017, the Cumberland River impact was able to remove 2 dams on zoo grounds, and it recreated the stream into a free-flowing system, which increased aquatic wildlife and crayfish to migrate, which is great. Box turtles, this is a newer one for us, is monitoring the movement of box turtles and disease prevalence on zoo grounds. And I was just able to update the number. We actually have documented over 100 eastern box turtles on our 188-acre property, which is really cool. They've been following 15 individuals with telemetry units over the year. They have about a 60% recapture rate. So that means there's still more to find out here on zoo grounds, and they're individually notching each individual. And I found out through the notching patterns that they're doing, they could identify up to 2,000 individuals, you know, if that were to ever happen. We've been doing radiographs recently on the females, and sorry, that should have said 3 to 5 eggs, not 305 eggs. But that's what we're finding on average in our females as they're heading into nesting season. And then we're also partnering with UT to test some of the upcoming diseases in these guys and looking for viral and fungal etiologies just to kind of see what's taking place in our populations on zoo grounds. Bluebird box is another one. Eastern bluebirds have declined. You guys may know that through the introductions of European house sparrows and starlings. And these guys have taken over their nest and kind of pushed bluebirds out. So we've been trying to help educate our visitors that they can make bluebird boxes, increase their habitats in their own backyards, to understand these guys. And then our own bird department has been putting these nest boxes on site and then going out and monitoring them, actually banding some birds. And you can see there, we're only in the second season, but they were able to track 51 nest attempts, 122 confirmed fledglings. And we actually have our first approved bander, Rachel, that can band birds, working with Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency and USDA, which is really cool. And she's visited 3 of the zoo's 15 bird boxes and had the opportunity to band her first chicks this year. So Rachel's really proud about that. We started this at our farm. And I don't know if anybody's been here to Nashville Zoo, but we have a historic farm, which is how this land came to be and how it was donated to the city to be used for the Nashville Zoo. So right here at the farm, we were able to start some apiaries, and we've been working with the Bee Society of Nashville. They've been coming out and working with our staff, educating them on how to manage bee boxes, how to treat them. I've been learning a lot about looking at disease and stuff on and doing microscope work with these guys and helping with treatments. So again, never thought I would work with bees, but this has been a really cool project. Get a lot of good guest feedback. They're loving to learn about how they can plant good native habitats for the bees in their own backyards. So we have signage now with all of that that describes what they can do to kind of protect bees and to encourage them to stay around and create their own hives in people's backyards. So that's been a new one to us to educate the public. Pollinators. This is also part of that historic farm, working with our master gardeners and stuff to create monarch butterfly habitat, to try to encourage those populations and to find, you know, a resting place and a place to eat on their migratory patterns. And then this is the newest one we're doing, which is working to bring back the chestnut from extinction. So the American chestnut is almost extinct. It's been devastated over the years. And so we're working at the Croft House and actually going to be out in front of the hospital planting some of these trees and trying to bring back their genetics and help these trees thrive. So that's our local conservation. Does anybody have any questions before I move on to our global work? Chat real quick. Cool. Okay, so globally, we also give a lot because a lot of our species, of course, on zoo grounds are not from Nashville. We have animals from all over the world. And so we try to give back to those conservation efforts as best we can and support really good programs that are working around the world to protect these species and their native habitats. So the first one that we love, we have a white rhino here at Nashville Zoo. We have 5 as part of a breeding program, but we work with the International Rhino Foundation to protect white rhinos in South Africa. We help sending money over to help with anti-poaching, both through horn removal or, anti-poaching units and those kind of things. You can see that we support the guard post and rapid response teams and intelligence teams to prevent and poaching in a lot of these areas like Kruger National Park. We have our director sits on the GRACE board, which is part of the Grauer Gorilla Conservation. They do extraordinary work to protect this amazing species. And they actually have a sanctuary where they get these juveniles or these babies that have either the parents been killed for bushmeat, or they've tried to smuggle the babies out of the area to sell them in the pet trade. And so they take these and they raise them up, and the hope is to actually have these troops be reintroduced one day back into the wild. But right now they are living in a sanctuary in Virunga National Park. And so it's just a really amazing program that we've been able to be a part of. Cheetahs, and some of these animals we don't even have on site. So we don't have gorilla, we don't have cheetah, but we still find that these needs are super important as we develop our Africa exhibit in the future. We just want to show that we are really putting our money where our mouth is and that we want to support these efforts. So my previous colleague, Dr. Margarita, was fortunate enough to go over and work with the Cheetah Conservation Fund. They actually have 2 locations, one in Namibia and one in Somaliland. The Somaliland is actually trying to stop the movement and trafficking of these poor cheetahs. So what happens is that there's a huge need, like in Dubai and those areas, for people to have these as pets. They think that they're a status symbol for them. So they go off and they take these babies and smuggle them out of the country. And so they were able to work with Somaliland to realize that these cheetahs are important, that keeping them around, tourism in the future, those kind of things are way more important than getting depleted out and selling them through smuggling. And so they are just building a brand new center to be able to house these, but they have had dozens and dozens of cheetahs just this year that have been attempted to be smuggled out of the country, and they've had to rehab. And these guys come in really sickly, dehydrated, malnourished, ectoparasites, all those sort of things. And so it's really a huge effort that needs to be stopped, or these guys won't be around in that area at all. So it's something we're proud to be a part of. One of our keepers just went over there last year to help with management of the cubs, because they also need staff training over there to help them understand how to care for these cubs and get them through crisis. Vulture conservation in South Africa. Our bird lead supervisor just went down there and worked with this project and got to see some chicks being reared. A really cool effort to rehabilitate these vultures and get them back into the wild in South Africa. Puerto Rican crested toads is a big one a lot of zoos are a part of. We have a breeding conservation center here just for this species and have produced thousands and thousands over the years and returned them back into the wild. You can see there in 22, 4,600 tadpoles were returned to Puerto Rico to ensure their future. We do a lot of tapir conservation. Lowland tapir monitoring in Brazil has been one that we've helped sponsor through radio trackers and being able to follow and monitor them in the wild and collect data. Komodo, as we just opened our new Komodo exhibit yesterday, we've been doing a roundup for conservation, focusing on this species with that upcoming exhibit. But this is to help the Komodo National Park set up camera traps, another aluminum traps and field gear for their park staff to be able to monitor and manage these animals and protect them for the future, which is really cool. Cotton-top tamarin conservation, we have a great breeding group. If you ever come to our zoo, they're actually located only in the women's restroom, so kind of a unique fact. But these tamarins were actually declining, and so we've been supporting efforts in the local areas in Colombia to help protect this species and ensure them for the future. I love these birds, the blue-billed curassow, really cool animal that are definitely threatened and endangered species. So really trying to help conserve them through breeding here and also through protecting the pro-Aves group to help protect them in their native habitat in Colombia. And then the great hornbill, we just have 2 new breeding pair. We had eggs last year. They weren't fertile, but that's a big deal. Not many zoos have these guys, but we're also sending money to help with the illegal trade of this species. And then red panda conservation, both through breeding here and through sending funds out to help with community awareness and prevention of habitat loss in their native habitat in Nepal. Babirusa breeding, we've had that, but we're also working with NGOs in Sulawesi to give them money to help with training and education about this species as well. Madagascar, it's another big country and definitely with a lot of habitat destruction and loss. So these species are definitely threatened, and so we're working with them as we have red ruff lemurs, ring-tailed lemurs. So a lot of species here that, you know, would be native to these areas. So trying to protect them. Wildlife trafficking, the Wildlife Trafficking Alliance trying to protect my favorite animal in the world, which is the pangolin, which is the most highly trafficked animal. So we're working to stop illegal wildlife trafficking by sending money and helping with awareness, saving Vietnam's wildlife, the pangolin species that lives in Vietnam. We've actually had their director come here to speak to our group, and they are just a wonderful organization. They're actually figuring out how to breed these guys, protect them, rehabilitate them, find diets for them. They've been a very hard species to actually maintain in a captive situation, and they're actually returning them back into the wild. And these guys are all collected from poachers that are moving them out for the sale of medicinal needs or for food. A lot of Asian communities find that their scales, they think that they have some, just like rhino horn, they have some, you know, chemical property that's going to help protect them or stop impotency or all these things that just aren't true. But these poor animals get poached for those needs, and they're actually worth a lot of money in these communities. So it's trying to educate those public to understand why they're important, that you shouldn't consume them, and that they should leave them be and help rehabilitate them and get them back into the wild. Turtle Survival Alliance, the Asian giant tortoise reintroduction in Bangladesh. We helped with TSA through a reintroduction program because they actually confiscated a bunch of these animals and were able to get them back into the wild, which is really cool. And then again, we're here to sustain species and population. So these are all some of the species that we work with, from white-cheeked gibbon to clouded leopards, tapir, bongo. These are all ones that we're trying to protect. We have the largest giant anteater population in the Northern Hemisphere. And so we've done a lot of work with understanding them in a captive setting, how to breed them, and then taking that information back into the wild. You can see over here in the picture on the right, that was a previous keeper that went down and worked with Ardo Desbiez on anteater monitoring in the wild and better understanding their movements. There's a lot of anteaters that are actually hit by cars down in Brazil. And so they're trying to understand their movements and patterns so they can work with the government to change some of those road patterns, or at least to educate the public of why these guys are important and to be able to protect them. So clouded leopards, of course, that's arguably our signature species. We have bred now over 40 of these cats, with another one on the way here soon. And so been part of the consortium that started actually a breeding program in Thailand, which is their native habitat, and in partnership with the Smithsonian, Point Defiance. And so that was a huge success and breeding program there. So really proud of the work that we've done with the clouded leopard to better understand that species and to help breed them both in captivity and to protect them in their native habitat by educating all the people there to understand why these cats are important. So again, this is the Anteaters and Highways project that we're a part of. It's really cool. We've actually sent radio collars down. One of the Anteaters they named after me. So Heather's been doing well, and she's gone on to have a baby. And so they've been tracking her for the last year, and she's doing really, really well. But they were able to learn a lot of information about this species, but they've also been able to put up these large road signs, again, work with local governments. They've actually put in some greenways and some bridges or some underpasses, and these animals are using those versus choosing to cross the road. So this has all been a huge effort that we've been a part of since the beginning, and just love these guys. Also, same guy, Arno Desby, has been working with the Giant Armadillo Project. Highly recommend you watch the show Hotel Armadillo that was on PBS. You can look it up. It's just a really cool to think that this giant armadillo, the size of a Volkswagen Bug, this just huge armadillo, had little known about them until the last decade. And so he started studying them, putting up camera traps, to realize that these guys dig these huge burrows, and they're actually home to so many species in South America. That's really cool. They also found that a lot of people don't like the giant armadillo because they'll take down beehives and some of the agricultural crops there. So they partnered with a lot of these beekeepers and work with them to change the way they house their bees and to elevate them so the giant armadillos don't destroy their hives. And they work in partnership. And so now they have Giant Armadillo Safe Honey, and they've been able to brand that and sell that in Brazil, which is really cool. And I've had that honey, it's really good. RARAC is a project I've been fortunate to be with, and Nashville Zoo started this program. It's a facility in Iquitos, Peru. And Iquitos, Peru is the largest city not connected by roadway. The only way to get there is by air or by boat. And it's the head of the Amazon. So a lot of animals that are illegally traded or killed happen in Iquitos. They sell a lot of this meat for bush meat or the animals as pets out of the Bayland market, and move these animals as part of the legal trade. And so John that started this project reached out and realized there was this huge need to educate the public there of why these species are important, or they were just going to deplete them. I've been fortunate to go down there about 3 times now, and man, you go into the markets and you just see red-footed tortoises, arapaima, manatee. It's starting to get more and more difficult, though, which is good. They're hiding better. Some of the things like jaguar, manatee, monkey, those things are harder to find in the market since the first time I went down there about 5 years ago. So it gives me some hope that things are improving, but you still can find those things. And so RARAC was started to educate the youth that are growing up about the importance of the species in their own backyard, about why these animals are important to their local ecosystems. And they're teaching them English, they're teaching them other ways of life, sustainability. They're making cool like keychains and things they can sell in the market versus having to resort to selling some of the bush meat. So they're really trying to teach them some different ways of life, ecotourism as being an important resource for them versus, again, the bush meat and the other trades. So this has been a really incredible project to be a part of. It's only been around, just like I said, over 5 years that they've been really working hard to rehab some of these animals. And so just this past spring, they were able to release 2 of the manatee that were brought in that were orphaned originally because their mothers were killed for bushmeat. And those manatees have been released in a community that has taken a sense of ownership over these manatee. They have radio trackers on them. And so they've been using satellite telemetry to go out on boat to find these guys. And I can report as of last week, and they were both still found, and they have traveled quite a long ways, but they're thriving as both a male and a female. They did separate ways. But we're really excited to continue to follow those over the years to come and see if they actually go back out and reproduce, which would be amazing. So those efforts are thriving. And then just wanted to share ways you guys can get involved. If you're here in Nashville or just want to get involved with what Nashville Zoo is doing. Again, visiting the zoo is huge. Memberships. You can be part of the donor club, Claws, Paws, and Jaws, or you can make donations to our conservation funds. And then, of course, we are on Amazon and Kroger as well. But just wanted to share a little bit about what Nashville Zoo is doing, and I'm super proud of all the efforts that our teams are putting forward to ensure that we are putting our money where our mouth is, and that we're participating with some major conservation efforts that are making a difference. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Thanks so much, Heather. I think it's so cool to hear about all this because, like, me personally, I love going to the zoo and seeing all the animals and learning new things. But I know a lot of people, when I talk about the zoo or mention wanting to go to the zoo, they're like, oh, zoos are sad, you know, they should just let the animals go, that sort of thing. So it's really great to hear about all the good things the zoos do. So y'all should be able to unmute yourself or ask questions in the chat. If you're not able to unmute yourself, let me know in the chat and I can fix that.
Thanks, Marcy. Good to see you. Yeah, that's a big one. That's why we went transparent with our veterinary hospital, is to change that narrative. You know, I mean, a lot of people think that about zoos, right? That we're not doing anything. We're just an entertainment source just to make money. And it's just so not true. So we wanted to make our veterinary care transparent as could be. So when you come here, you can see us work in surgery, treatments, those kind of things. And now the Komodo dragon exhibit is right across the way. So you can stand out and either look at a surgery or watch a Komodo dragon. So it's kind of cool. But we did that on purpose. We wanted to let people know the extent that we're going to care for our animals here, but also things in our own backyard. So it's kind of cool.
Well, I had a question about the funding. So is there a reason that other zoos get tax funding and Nashville Zoo doesn't, or is it just
yeah, it's just city and lobbying, right? You know, I think because we're newer, you know, we do get so I can't say Nashville doesn't do anything. We'll get a lot of capital money. So the parking garage that we're putting in is from the city. But to go after operating dollars requires a lot of like lobbying and, you know, recruitment to get some of those tax percentages or endowments going. And so it just hasn't happened for us yet. But, you know, hopefully one day.
Hey, Heather, thanks for a great talk.
Hi.
I know you're doing a lot of trying to put a lot of One Health education into your zoo.
Trying.
Yeah. But I know we have big plans for that, but can you just talk a little bit about what your plans are and what you hope to.
So I really, through all these efforts, I'm trying to work with the education team that we work in some One Health with our graphics. We did One Health Day last year and had people come up and set tables, which was really great through the One Health program. And really talk about how all this ties in. I also try to bring that as part of our messaging when we are doing animal procedures, when we're talking to guests about, you know, how everything's a continuum and One Health is important. But it has been a little harder to message than I was hoping for. So if anyone has any great ideas that they want to send my way, I know St. Louis has been another zoo that's really been trying to push this forward. And I feel like it reaches a lot of adults, but I feel like it doesn't reach, it's hard to share this topic with children and help them understand how this all ties in. And my ultimate goal would be that One Health is just part of our everyday curriculum. Every summer camp, the One Health is kind of woven into those talks. And there is buy-in here within the zoo, but it's just how to get that off the ground is kind of taking a little bit of time. But these are all ways that we're trying to instill this here at Nashville and bring the One Health forward. I am amazed, man. I've talked to human doctors too, and they don't know what One Health is, right? So we have a lot of education to do out there.
Any other questions?
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to ask if anyone else had questions for you. So go ahead.
I just saw Dr. Craig put on there how many projects we have going on. It's amazing, and it takes a huge team effort. Our ectotherm curator, I give him lots of props, Dale McGinnity. He has done an amazing job partnering with local government like TWRA and some local groups around here and getting a lot of grants. So kudos to him for all the work he's done to spearhead these projects. I feel like I'm just riding the coattails.
One thing I will add about Dale and your whole crew there is how forward thinking they are. I mean, y'all have been working on this Hellbender project for a long time, and you've stuck with it and really put the time and effort it takes to make it grow. And it is making such a huge, huge impact. And even when there have been stumbling blocks, you guys have kept barreling forward. So it's been
the first
really
year
awesome.
on release was kind of depressing, right? We lost a good majority of them, and you kind of feel like, oh, so much effort and work, but we just kept plugging along, and this year was such a great success. So it's definitely motivating now to keep going. Thank you guys so much for hearing me talk. It's kind of nice to see a lot of familiar names on this list. So it's awesome. Thank you.